Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3, The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook live from the Spring Hill Heating and Cooling Studios at the BetMGM, the brand spanking new BetMGM Sports Lounge Restaurant and Bar out here at Bridgestone Arena. It used to be the Patron Club. You can walk right in from the street. You come right into the Sports Lounge. I have, by the way, not taken a look at the menu yet. They asked me if I would be interested. I said not right now, but at some point I probably am going to have to take a look at this menu around here. But this place looks exactly like if they said, Jared, you are a trillionaire and you can build the biggest house you'd ever want. And if I wanted to build a sports bar in my house, this is what I would build. And again, it is at Bridgestone Arena. It's open, I believe, at 11 a.m. every day. It's open up in here, 11 a.m.? 11 a.m. I got the thumbs up here. So we're really excited about that. Fireball Hot Take Friday. Ian is here today. Hello, Ian.
What up, what up?
So I think, Ian, would you call me a genius?
No.
Would you call me intelligent?
Sure.
What's in between intelligent and a genius?
Good question.
Well, I don't think I'm a genius either, but I do think I have figured out the elusive Titans vision that Ran Carthon was keeping a secret the other day, and I think I know why Mike Vrabel didn't fit it. And they could have said this, and I understand why they probably didn't want to say it, but they probably should have said it anyways. I think the Titans are done with the Patriot way. And that's why Mike Vrabel didn't fit their vision. With the Patriot way, everybody falls in line. You've got the head coach, the dictator, Bill. And everybody does what Bill wants all the time. Do your job is the mantra, but basically do your job and then Bill decides from there. And the Titans didn't believe in that anymore. They had a Patriot organization with a Patriot general manager and a Patriot coach. And they got good results. And again, when they decided to go with the Patriot general manager and they decided to go with the Patriot coach, they decided, hey, the Patriot way was still very popular in the NFL. In fact, everybody was trying some form of it, right? The Texans were trying the Patriot way. The Buccaneers with Jason Light, they were trying the Patriot way. The Detroit Lions with Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia, they were trying the Patriot way. So it wasn't like the Titans were doing anything different than anybody else. But after Tom Brady left and won a Super Bowl in Tampa Bay with Bruce Arians, and Bill continued to lose and lose and lose, and Josh McDaniels was losing, and Matt Patricia was losing, and the Patriot way wasn't working anymore, I think the Titans decided, they probably just think like, we don't want that anymore. And I get that. I mean, I talked to a head coach in the NFL when the Patriots were doing their thing that said, you give me Tom Brady and a 25% discount, I bet y'all win some Super Bowls too. So Mike Vrabel might be young, but he's very much an old school guy. And I think we all know Vrabel, he's very much set in his ways. He grew up under Bill Cowher and Bill Belichick, and then, of course, he worked for dictators. Urban Meyer and Bill O'Brien are the perfect definition of dictators. Bill O'Brien conspired with the team chaplain to take over the organization. He ran out two general managers when he was there. That's the Patriot way. Bill Belichick ran out Bobby Greer. Bobby Greer is the one guy who went to Michigan and talked to Lloyd Carr about their quarterback, and he said, Bobby, you've got to draft Tom Brady. And Bobby Greer lost the power struggle with Bill Belichick after he won it against Bill Parcells. So again, he's an old school guy, and they didn't want that anymore. Analytics? I believe Belichick was quoted as saying that he used them next to zero. So the Titans, I think, want an organization instead of where everything starts at the top and goes with the dictator. The Titans want an organization where they hire a bunch of people and they give them individualized jobs. Jared, your job is to do this. Ian, your job is to do that. Johnny, your job is to do this. Scooty, your job's to do that. And then we all come together, and then there's one person that, again, kind of organizes it into one, but that person's not dictating what all these different people do. I guess that's the way the 49ers do things. I don't know. I don't cover the 49ers. But that's what the Titans want. And those are two very different styles. The first, the Patriot Way style, is the I'm the boss, and I'm telling everybody all the time what to do, and I'm micromanaging everybody, and I'm pushing everybody one way, and I need everybody to act exactly the way that I tell you to and I want you to, or it's not going to work. But if you do everything the way I say, we're going to win and win and win and win. If we have the greatest quarterback who ever lived that takes a 25% discount and adheres to all those rules and principles. And I think the Titans realize, wait a minute, that's Brady. It's not the structure. They're not smarter than everybody else. They don't work with more than everybody. They have Brady. And when Brady left, it made it pretty obvious. Which now takes me to the Titans. Because they thought they could get Mike Vrabel to do that. They thought they could get Mike Vrabel to, quote-unquote, collaborate. I'll give you a good example of what the Titans were asking Mike Vrabel to do. On this program, the Stillman and Company program, I think it's pretty obvious we do what I want to do 99.9% of the time. There's nobody else here to dictate, we should do this or we should do that or whatever it may be. But when I did work with a co-host on the Jared and the GM program, the GM and I had very different jobs. I remember I was on a date one night, and the girl I was on a date with, the woman, she said, do you and Floyd have the same job? And I stood there for a second, and I was like, I guess. If you asked Floyd what his job was at the time, he'd probably say, he was a talk radio host. But Floyd's not cutting clips from what Skip Bayless said that day. Floyd's not listening to the press conference to analyze every little word. And I'm not going to sit there and tell you what the technique of the right guard should be. We had very different jobs. It was a very collaborative process. For example, Ask the GM, the one segment where we'd have people call in and ask Floyd whatever it is they wanted to ask him. I would set it up. I would line up the phones, and then I'd take the phone calls, and you'd talk to him. And honestly, I kind of checked out mentally when we would do Ask the GM a lot of the time. I kind of go off just mentally off into la-la land. That one time he tried to hang up on a caller. Ian, I know you remember this one.
Oh, of course I remember that.
He tried to hang up on that caller, and it was just like, I don't know what he did to the phones.
That's what it sounded like.
That is exactly what – that wasn't his job. And that's what the Titans want. But this takes me to them, which is, did you really think Mike Vrabel was going to do that? Did you really think, again, you had a Patriot general manager, you had a Patriot coach. By all accounts, outside of the A.J. Brown trade, they worked together fine. I'm sure they had disagreements. Everybody has disagreements. But did you really think that you were going to bring Mike Vrabel, that you were going to bring somebody else in with Mike Vrabel and all of his cronies already there, and you were going to tell Mike Vrabel, hey, Mike, instead of you basically whipping everybody into shape all the time, instead of you being the commander and they being the, soldiers in the army, we'd rather it be like you're just an overseer. Did you really think Mike Vrabel would be interested in that? That'd be like coming to me and saying, hey, I'd like you to do what I call talking about radio, which is where people talk about things. Let's just talk about the game this Sunday. Well, it's going to be interesting because if they bring the blitz, then are they going to be able to pick it up? Well, it'll be interesting. If the wide receivers can get separation, it'll be interesting. We don't do that. We do if Buffalo loses at home to Pittsburgh this weekend, they might fire that coach, and they probably should. And if you wanted me to do talking about radio, I could do talking about radio. But considering that I have the option to not do talking about radio, I'm not going to choose to do talking about radio. And I would absolutely hate talking about radio. And the next time you hear people just meander along and not say anything, that'll be the first time that you know exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to talking about radio. That is the vision for the Titans, is that everybody is pulling the rope, everybody is doing their own job. Split it up into 18 different parts. You're in charge of this, you're in charge of that, you're in charge of this, you're in charge of that, you're in charge of this, you're in charge of that, and now bring it all to me. Ran Carthon at his introductory press conference told a great example when I asked him if there was something that he was really proud of as working in the 49ers of a specific player, and he brought up Elijah Mitchell, a running back they drafted in the 6th round. He said the analytics guy came to him and said, this is the best outside zone runner in the draft, but I need you to watch the tape because we need this to go to Kyle. So Rand watches the tape. He says, I think Elijah Mitchell can do it. The two of them go to Shanahan. Shanahan puts on the tape. Evaluated the tape. That was his job. And so they've told us that this is the guy we're going to want to go with. D'Amico Ryans, understanding, picks up the phone, calls the linebacker coach, and tells the linebacker coach, or I guess probably calls him in the room or whatever. D'Amico Ryans tells the linebacker coach, hey, we're not going to get to the linebacker because we're doing this. And the linebacker coach, thumbs up. That's not how the Titans do things. The Titans do things funneling it all the way up to Robinson or Vrabel. It is bring this guy into me. Just bring it to me. And then instead of let's talk, nope, yes or no. And that's their vision. Now, I have no idea if that vision's going to work. I have no idea. If I had to bet, I would bet against it. But I am convinced that that's what this all boils down to. The Titans were done with the Patriot way, which I understand. They thought they could get Mike Vrabel to operate differently than the way the Patriot way coaches all operate. That was never going to happen. And there's another part of this that I know right now they are banking on not being the case. And it has to do with their general manager. The brainchild, again, kind of the brainchild of this, we want to shift from the Patriot way to the 49er collaboration way. And we'll get to that coming up next, because if what's being sold out there is true, then they really set him up to fail. We'll get to that coming up next. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to weigh in. 615-737-1025. But you all want the vision? That's the vision. The vision is everybody working together, everybody coming to them with the information, and then the guys in charge deciding the information. Not the guy in charge calling all the shots at the top. 615-737-1025 if you want to weigh in. Again, 615-737-1025 on a Fireball Hot Take Friday. We are live again from the BetMGM Sports Lounge out here at Bridgestone Arena. It's Stillman and Company on 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
you talked about the season and being philosophically aligned and all. But in that regard, a couple of big moves were made in season. The switch from Tannehill to Levis at quarterback, the firing of Craig Aukerman. Were those unanimous decisions by the organization at the time?
Yes, every decision that we made was unanimous. Mike and I, we speak every morning, whether I come to his office or he comes to my office, and we talk about the task in hand for the day. When we got to the point of making the move from Ryan, at that time when we made the initial switch, Ryan was injured. And that was about, now we get to see what Levis can do. And Levis went out and he played well. I think had everybody, in this room and our fan base excited about what was to come. And so we decided to make the decision to, move forward and see what that's going to look like in the future in his development.
Did Amy have a say in those decisions?
We consulted with Miss Amy. One thing about Miss Amy is, she hired us to do a job and she allows us to do our job.
There you go. That was Ran Carthon at his press conference. That was not a good press conference. And I will tell you right now, that press conference did Ran Carthon no favors. It's like I was talking to Robbie on Tuesday after they had the press conference because he was here at the arena at the Preds game. And I was like, look, I know that I've been kind of hard on Ran, so I want to make sure that, as somebody who has no pro or anti-Ran bias or whatever it may be, I said, was that a bad press conference? And Robbie looked at me and was like, that was a horrible press conference. I was like, okay, good. As long as we're on the same page. So the banking on Mike Vrabel to learn and respect Ran Carthon ultimately, I believe, has set Ran Carthon up to fail. As it was reported in the Diana Rossini Joe Rexroad article, it sounds like Mike Vrabel was never interested in Ran Carthon being an equal to him. He said, hey, let's make him assistant general manager. Not general manager. Don't think he's ready for that. Let's make him assistant general manager. And Vrabel wanted full control. So I saw what Buck wrote at A to Z Sports, that Ran Carthon spent all this year trying to placate Mike Vrabel. And if that's the case, that set Mike Vrabel up, or that set Ran Carthon up to fail. Again, I get it. Ran Carthon knows Mike Vrabel's the established guy there, and he wants to make it work, and he was tasked with collaborating and getting the Vrabel to respect him and all of that. And yet, as I told you, Mike Vrabel was never going to do that. You know Mike Vrabel. I know Mike Vrabel. That'd be like trying to get Mike Vrabel to respect me. It was never going to happen. And I like Mike Vrabel. I'm sure he hates me. That's okay. But if Ran Carthon spent that whole first year as general manager trying to placate Mike Vrabel, as he kept saying time and time again, trying to get players for Mike Vrabel, trying to do things to get Mike Vrabel to respect him, well, now he's got to start from scratch. But the problem is that I don't know about you, but I'm not interested in pretending that this past year didn't happen and saying, hey, Ran Carthon was handcuffed because he was trying to do things Mike Vrabel's way, and so now that they're going to get a new coach in here, they're going to do things the Ran Carthon way, and you will see, Jared, you will see. Let me just say this. I want to believe that Ran Carthon is the guy for the Tennessee Titans. Because I, as a fan, I want the Titans to be good. But right now, I'm just being told to trust the process, and that doesn't work for me, especially after the last year. And quite frankly, the Titans and Ran Carthon have not earned that. It's like, oh yeah, hey, Ran Carthon had that disastrous press conference after the draft where he told the media to be positive. Hey, be positive, media. This might be the best moment of Tajay Spears' life. Be positive. He doesn't have an ACL. That is at least worth asking and discussing. And again, maybe I'm just different from everybody else. I think this year's draft class so far is okay. I mean, it all banks on whether or not Levis becomes a star, which will make any draft class good or bad. But I was not impressed by Skoronski. I thought drafting a left guard with the 11th overall pick was incredibly stupid. Now, if Ran Carthon was trying to placate Mike Vrabel, I understand, but that still goes on his record. Levis, we'll see. I think they're a little bit too optimistic on Levis compared to where I am with Levis, which is I haven't changed on Levis. I liked Levis coming out. I like Levis now. And I hope Levis, isn't injury prone and gets over his turnover issue, but it's real. Like it exists. And I think Spears is a good part of a running back duo. I wouldn't draft that in the 3rd round. Not when Kansas City's getting Pacheco in the 7th round. San Francisco's getting Elijah Mitchell in the 6th round. I don't think Spears is that great. But he bungled that, talking about the press conference itself. So where am I supposed to get this faith that, hey, Ran Carthon really is great, and Ran Carthon didn't do interviews last year, didn't do press conferences because he was trying to get Mike Vrabel to, respect him and see that he was pulling the rope in the same direction that Mike Vrabel was pulling it and all of those things. Well, that's great, but that is just hope. That is what I call just trust me. And I'm sorry, but the Tennessee Titans have not earned just trust me. And if you just trust the Tennessee Titans, or you just give them the benefit of the doubt, like Willie, I love you, I do, but let's not kid ourselves. He's sitting there talking about Rand's press conference the other day. That was horrendous. He's like, well, he's a rookie GM. I'm sorry. When he held his first press conference as GM, did he say, guys, give me a year, because I'll take all my lumps the first year and then I'll learn? That's not how it works. You start the job, you're on the clock. If you don't want to be on the clock, don't take the job. But the idea that this was all Vrabel's fault, that is spoken like a true team that just fired somebody. And I can't get on board with that because they haven't earned, when it comes to me, the benefit of the doubt. But at least I have an idea of where I think they're going. And maybe Buck's right. Maybe Rand was just trying to placate Vrabel the whole time. 615-737-1025. Our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 615-737-1025 if you want to weigh in. Texter into the text line says, when it comes to Vrabel, I think Vrabel was unhappy with the push to change to high scoring and analytic style the analytic style that is so in demand right now. The tree the coaches come from really shaped the coaching philosophy, and Vrabel came from the Belichick tree of defensive coordinators and conservative offenses that try to win by a field goal without Tom Brady. Ran Carthon, meanwhile, is from the Shanahan tree, high score, but also they want to have defenses to compete, and those two didn't mix as expected. I think Vrabel said exactly what he needed to get fired, win in New England for the induction, and he made his comment that he wants to be here the other day as long as they are winning, and they haven't been winning lately, so he wanted out. Look at all the coaches off the Shanahan tree. They are succeeding and playing exciting offense and scoring football. When is the last time a Titans game has been high scoring and really fun to watch? Better get there with a new stadium that the taxpayers are building for them that will bring the spotlight. And there's a lot of different thoughts in there. It does sound to me like Vrabel was skeptical of analytics. The Patriot way is skeptical of analytics. And yet it also feels to me like the Titans brought in a bunch of people for analytics, and Mike Vrabel was sitting there saying, hey, what do the analytics say? And they were basically telling him, this is just what I gather, that, the analytics aren't ready yet. Like they're a batch of cookies. And that they're not ready yet. They're still in the oven. Let them bake. In fact, he even made a comment, Ian, if you could. Vrabel made a comment about analytics. And I think the whole analytic thing is kind of crazy because on one hand, it is the Patriot way doesn't do analytics. I don't think John Robinson did analytics. I don't think they had an analytics department. And then there's, the idea that Vrabel wanted analytics, but they weren't ready for him. And this was a question about, Vrabel was asked by Paul about injuries, and he takes kind of a shot at analytics and how long it was taking for them to get the analytics to him.
What do you think the rest of that is due to level out over time?
I guess it's like analytics. I guess you need a lot of examples, however many examples they use to run the model.
I mean, so he's right there. Like, I guess, it's going to take some time before we have all the analytics. So I don't even know what to believe. I don't know to believe if Vrabel was anti-analytics or if the analytics weren't ready for Vrabel. That I couldn't tell you. 615-737-1025. I also don't think Vrabel is opposed to high scoring, right? Arthur Smith scored a bunch of points. I don't see why he'd be against it. I just think it's a different style. Speaking of Vrabel, I got something dead wrong when it comes to Mike Vrabel. I am actually shocked by it, and I was shocked until the very end when it came to Mike Vrabel. We'll touch on that next, and then we're right back to your phones on a Fireball Hot Take Friday. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We are live from the BetMGM Sports Lounge here at Bridgestone Arena. And Jarrett Companies Stillman and Company is brought to you by Jarrett Companies Fire and Commercial Plumbing HVAC Division. 615-515-1270, JarrettCompaniesInc.com. And tune in to The Fan, 94.9 The Fan, on Sunday for Vandy Women's Basketball. Hey, Vandy Women's Basketball just went to Kentucky and beat the crap out of them. Congratulations. They will be at home taking on Missouri. Pregame at 11:45. Tip-off is at noon. And coverage is also available on the 94.9 The Fan app and at 94.9thefan.com.
Vrabel struck me as the perfect hybrid. Played for Belichick, didn't coach with Belichick. Has coaching experience, has done well. I am surprised. I am surprised that it happened this quickly, but I think part of it, too, is they didn't want to let this Vrabel chatter kind of take over, and then they don't get to make their decision, on their own without too much external pressure.
Hey, that was Mike Florio today. Gerard Mayo is the next coach of the New England Patriots. So with Mayo going to the Patriots, and I was completely wrong about that here on Fireball Hot Take Friday. I thought Mike Vrabel was going to get that job. And so with Mayo getting that job and Adam Peters today being named the general manager of the Commanders, I think that takes Vrabel out for that job because Peters, declined to interview for the job here. And if Peters wanted Vrabel to be his coach, I think part of the reason why he declined to interview for the job here last year was because whoever took this job was going to have Vrabel as coach. So Peters gets the Washington job, so he's probably out there. Atlanta looks like Belichick's getting that job. The Chargers are going to hire Harbaugh. Max Crosby today tweeted support for Antonio Pierce. The owner will lose the team if he does not hire Antonio Pierce. The Seahawks could be in play for Vrabel, but Dan Quinn feels like the favorite there. And then the Panthers are out there, but Vrabel's not going to the Panthers. Now, I would say this, before I just say that there's nowhere for Vrabel to go this offseason, I would say this. Dallas and Buffalo are both on the table. If Dallas loses, I could see them firing Mike McCarthy, and then I could see them either promoting Dan Quinn, or I could see Vrabel. I could see Jerry Jones liking Vrabel. Buffalo is absolutely in play if Sean McDermott loses this week to the Steelers. And he should be in play if they lose this week to the Steelers. And I believe an offensive coach would be who they would target to go with Josh Allen. But I do think that, I think that Vrabel could be in the mix because, again, you can sell that to your players and teams and things like that. Texter into the text line. Our phone lines, of course, are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Says, I unfairly look at Ran Carthon as a clown now, and I probably won't believe him ever again after the press conference that he had on Tuesday. Please, I just hope that they make good draft picks. I agree. I'll tell you right now, I'm betting against Ran. The narrative out there right now is, hey, he was trying to placate Vrabel. As Buck wrote at A to Z Sports, he was trying to placate Vrabel. He was trying to get Vrabel to respect the process with which he was trying to bring. This is going to be a much stronger, analytic-driven operation. Just trust him. But after the leaks this offseason, after the underwhelming free agency, after the giving Aaron Brewer a second-round tender and just wasting $2 million, after what I thought was an uninspiring return for Kevin Byard, after the entire Kevin Byard saga, the draft night press conference, and this past press conference, I'm going to bet against the Titans and Ran Carthon. I'm betting against them. You can take them. Texter says, I'm starting to think the Titans' window of success was dictated by lucking into Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown, and Jeffrey Simmons all at the same time. I wouldn't say that it's all that. I mean, I don't think it was all luck, right? Like, I don't think it was all luck that you were the worst team in the NFL 2 years running, John Robinson showed up, and you were all of a sudden a 9-win team. First of all, I think Mike Mularkey was a good coach. You guys can disagree, but I think Mularkey was a good coach. Secondly, I do think Robinson did some good when it came to the draft, trades, everything else. The luck for me was A.J. Brown and Arthur Smith. Like that, those were the two things where I'm like, they lucked into that. A.J. Brown falling to the second round, but then again, they didn't have a right guard when they drafted A.J. Brown, and so they sought out A.J. Brown. So I'm even going to take that one away. The one thing that I think they made a huge mistake on when it came to A.J. Brown was I felt like they probably looked at it with Burks, and they said, well, we can just go draft the next A.J. Brown. And it's like, remember, you guys drafted Corey Davis. Like, just remember that. You drafted Corey Davis. When you say, oh, this is a receiver we know, we like, yes, Corey Davis, Julio Jones. Those were the two guys that like you just went after. Talking about the Robinson administration. A.J. Brown kind of fell to you a little bit. They didn't even trade up to get A.J. Brown. So maybe they should have realized their luck there. James is in Clarksville. He's up next on Ran Carthon. Thank you for calling and waiting. What's up, James?
Hey, what's up, Jared? Couple things. I personally don't have confidence in Ran Carthon because I haven't seen enough. But I think the press conference, while it was not so good, he was doing it handcuffed, if you will. But you've always told us that Mike Vrabel is in charge.
I didn't always tell you that.
You're always
No, James, you're confusing me with everybody else.
Okay.
There was about a 2-month period in which I thought Mike Vrabel was in charge because Paul Kaharski told me, and that was when I learned to stop listening to Paul Kaharski as gospel. But outside of that, I told you when he got hired, when Rand got hired, I said, I don't think there is somebody in charge. And then
275-pound center is a coach's decision.
Why? How is that a coaching issue?
He doesn't have to start. He didn't have to be the starting center. That's the coach's position.
I mean, when they gave him a second-round tender, thank you for your call, James. When they gave him a second-round tender, they were basically announcing to the world that Aaron Brewer was a starting center. I mean, that's what that was. Now, I agree with you. He didn't have to start, and Vrabel was never not going to start him. And if I had to guess who was more inclined to love Aaron Brewer, it would be the coach. But I'm not going to sit back and just say, like, oh, no, these are all Vrabel problems. Rand didn't do anything. None of this is Rand's fault. I'm not going to do that. Just like, again, the way that Joe and Diana wrote it in The Athletic made a lot of people believe that Ryan Cowden was the one picking the players in the draft, and that is not what running the draft board means. But, I mean, again, you signed up. That your name is on that team. And they're not all going to be slam dunks in year one. But, again, I haven't seen anything that makes me think for, like, oh, yeah, this team, they know what they're doing, which is why I'd bet against them. 615-737-1025. More of your phones. We'll get to those. Plus, we have breaking news on the Alabama coach, Kalen DeBoer, at Washington, will be the next head coach at the University of Alabama. I have a quick thought on that, and then we're back to your phones at 615-737-1025. Let's give something away. I'm in a good mood here today since we are live at the BetMGM Sports Lounge. But first, let me tell you about Fireball Whiskey, and then I'll give that away. Fireball Whiskey is the best. It goes down so smooth, and it tastes so great. There is no better way to start your weekend and to ignite the night and really enjoy it than to do it with ice-cold Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey. I love it so much. It's about to get freaking cold outside, which means warm it up with Fireball Whiskey. Goes down so smooth, and it tastes so great. Ignite tonight. Please be 21 years or older to enjoy, and please enjoy responsibly. That's Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey. Okay, be caller 5 right now at 615-737-1025, and you will win a $50 voucher for this brand spanking new BetMGM Sports Lounge restaurant and bar right here inside of Bridgestone Arena. Good luck there. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Breaking news on this Fireball Hot Take Friday. Kalen DeBoer, the head coach at Washington, is taking the Alabama job. And so Alabama does move quickly. I'll give Alabama credit. You know, Chad Withrow came on yesterday, and he said that Alabama was going to be humbled. They were going to be humbled by their coaching search. And I guess they reached out to Dan Lanning. He wasn't interested. I mean, if being humbled is taking a guy who, as a head coach in his career, is 104-12 and just had the number 2 team in the country, I'll say that's pretty humbling. I mean, again, this isn't – I'm looking at his coaching record right now because I didn't even know who the hell Kalen DeBoer was until like a year ago. And so I'm looking at his head coaching record. He coached in the NAIA at Sioux Falls. 11-2. This is his first year. 11-2, 14-0, 13-1, 14-0.